Alright, all praises and glory be to Yahweh Shem Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Alright, and honors to brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Alright, we're out here again, to teach this word, talk word of the Yahweh Shem Shai. Alright, to let these people know that their kingdom's getting ready to be destroyed. To let our own people know that they're gonna get right with the Most High. Alright, before it's too late. Because what's coming out here is gonna be likened unto something that's never happened before, and it's gonna be likened unto something that's never gonna happen again. Alright? The scripture talks about how this destruction is gonna play out there in America, which we know in the scriptures is Babylon. And how it was gonna play out there in America is the Lord was gonna have it to where that's gonna be left as a monument. And if you see, I believe it was on Sputnik News, they were saying something to the effect of tension between America and Russia is liking that after the Cold War, man. Liking that to what was happening out there in the Cold War. And what happened in the Cold War, you had the USSR, the old USSR going up against the against NATO and the Americans, and they did their thing back then. But this time, man, the Most High ain't gonna have it to where you're gonna come back and then you're gonna rebuild your economies. You're gonna rebuild your schools and your information, deceit-based system, man. Because the scripture does say how Esau was going to come and he was going to deceive the world, man. Job 9, chapter on the 24th verse. All right? Job 9 to 24 says the wicked, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. All right? If not wherein, who is he? And we know he's the wicked. All right? In fact, when you go to the Maccabees, the first Maccabees, the 3rd chapter on the 48th verse, it speaks about how they laid and we're in the heathen, and this was talking about back then. But that goes to show you that there's nothing new underneath the earth, as it speaks about in the book of Ecclesiasticus, man. Alright, so just like how you had it back then, when the Greeks and the Romans, or the Greco-Roman Empire was in power, you had it to where they laid open, the book of the law. They painted their own likeness, what as iconoclasm. Alright, as they came back as the what you know now as Britain, right? And what you know now as America. When they came back, they did exactly the same thing. They laid open the book of the law. Matter of fact, I might get that. I ain't put that out in a while. Laid open the book of the law, and they sought to paint their own likeness, man, right? To deceive the whole world, because they are deceivers, man. So this is the book of First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. Second Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, by the way. I'm sure it's in first Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. The scripture escapes me right now, man. Around about the 48th verse. There we go. So this is the First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter on the 48th verse. It says, and laid open the book of the law. What do we know as the book of the law? All right, the Torah, where we got, the 10, they say the 10 commandments. Really, the 10 commandments is a breakdown, or rather more, it encapsulates all the 613 laws, statutes, commandments of the Most High, man. All right. The effect that you're going to love your neighbor. When you go to 1 John, the 2nd chapter, it's 1 John, the 2nd chapter, right? It says the love of the world is keeping the commandments of the Most High, all right? So if you're going to love your neighbor, which your neighbor was going to be, when you go to Romans 9th chapter, it says his kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites. Your neighbor was going to be another brother, man. It's going to be a fellow Israelite, all right? So the keeping of the law, and you got it to where they got this 10 commandments bullshit, all right? Keeping of the commandments, man, that was encapsulates all the commandments that the Most High put forth, man, all right? To the end that you were supposed to remember those commandments, and the 10 commandments was like an easy way of remembering that, because that encompasses all of those laws, such commandments, man. Whether we was going to go out into war, all right, and we was going to take down the city, those 10, them within the 10 commandments, there's guidance in how to do that. All right, you're supposed to get into all of that and extrapolate. So the scripture says, and laid open the book of the law. All right, so they laid open the book of containing the law. The scripture goes on to say, we're in the heathen, right? We're the heathen, different nations that are not the 12 tribes of Israel. Right, you got the different nations out there, the Ammonites, which is the Japanese, the Moabites, which is the Chinese, all right, the Edomites, which is the so-called white people that are in power right now, all right, they're the wicked, because they're the deceivers, they're the ones that bring forth wickedness in this society, all right, they are the root of the wicked, man. In fact, when you go to the book of Matthew, the 13th chapter, it talks about the wheat and the tares, right, all right, and how the wicked came about, and he put his seed amongst the amidst what we know as the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, but we know in the scriptures as the real Israelites. That was talking about Esau, and when he was dealing with our women by way of force, all right, during the times of slavery, all right, that's what Esau was doing. Right? It ain't just the slavery that we've just been in right now, man. We ain't talking about 400 years ago when we was talking about slavery. No, we're talking about not only that. All the way back to the Herodians. The Herodians were tares. In fact, that scripture specifically was talking about the Herodians, man. Right, but to expound upon the point, that was also talking about how he was going to have it to where Jake women, right, was going to be amidst these different nations. They was going to get down with these different nations. See, them children, the seed that they had was going to be off these other nations, man. That wasn't off our seed. And when you go and read the latter part of Matthew the 13th chapter, the scripture talks about how the tares, right, they was going to be bound and burnt. And that corroborates with what it says within the book of Obadiah, where it says the house of Joseph and the house of Judah was going to be aflame, and the house of Esau was going to be stubble, man. See, all of the scriptures, man, they corroborate together, they link up. That's why we call them precepts. And that's why the scripture says also, you're going to go here a little and there a little, so you can expound upon the understanding, man. So you get a little bit of information from this place over here, okay, you understand a little bit of that, but to really get that fullness of that scripture, to really have it to where it sinks in, you got to balance it. Just like when you're in court and you make a point against somebody, well, the judge is going to say, well, that's you got to bring forth the evidence for that, right? So you say the tares are the Edomites and they're going to be bound and burnt. Okay, that's cool. All right, you got to balance it with something else. You go to the book of Obadiah, the first chapter. All right, you go to the book of Malachi, the first chapter on the 4th verse, man. How these Edomites was going to build up their cities, all right, that's a good chapter to go to, man. Malachi, the first chapter on the 4th verse, all right. How Esau was going to come into power, they was going to build the cities, but the Lord was going to throw their cities down, man. So you ain't gonna have a resurgence of the Edomites coming back forth after the time that we're in right now, man. We're in what we know as the latter times, man. All right, the end of times, really the beginning of Jacob's time. Right, saving that we're going to go through the time of Jacob's trouble, we're going to go through a certain amount of hell and so on and so forth, all right? But that's all in the Lord's will to what? To purge out the ones that are of us, but not really of us, man. Because the scripture says in the book of, Romans, the 9th chapter and the 9th verse, because they are not all Israel, they are of Israel. So you got it to where some people within the 12 tribes of Israel out there have been created for the fire, man, all right? And the point for that, it says, and this is really talking about Esau and the other nations, where it talks about if the wicked be increased, they increase for the sword. All right. So you got to where these different nations, including the 2/3 of Jake's, they're all populating the earth, and you got 7 billion people living out here in the earth right now, man. Right. The Most High has set that up so that they be increased for what? For the sword. Man. All right. So let me get back to this precept right here in the book of First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter on the 48th verse. It says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint their own likeness of their own image. All right, so they laid open the book of the law, and they started to, make it to a tribute to themselves, man. And that's why you go to where you go to watch these different films when they're supposed to be biblical based. All right, and you got it to where Adam looks like an Edomite. All right. You got it to where Moses looks like an Edomite, but that's contrary to the scriptures. The scriptures goes on to say how when Moses pretty much he stopped the fight or something, that was pretty much Jake was being persecuted underneath the Egyptians' rule, man. They were being persecuted out. All right, just like how you got it right now here. All right, you had it to where Jacob was being persecuted right there. So the Most High set up Moses, all right, to deliver those people out there. And there was an account where there was a discrepancy, right? And Moses came along and he sorted that discrepancy out. All right. But what did the Israelite man say? He said that Egyptian, meaning to say what? He looked like the Egyptians, man. Going to prove what? That Moses had to have been a man of color, man. All right. So the heathens that have sought to paint their own likeness of their own image, because when you watch it in the movies, the Moses, because you had it to where this guy, Exodus, Gods and Kings, they had it, which that guy's a Jake anyway, right? But for the mass, for the majority of the people out there, he looks like a regular Edomite, man. Right? He looks like Esau. All right? And that's what the scripture says. They sought to paint their own likeness of their own image. And that goes even deeper to where they whitewash most of the images that you go out there within the world right now. All right? Right, which is known as iconoclasm, but out there in the interiors of places like Russia. All right? Places within Europe, you got it to where you got the original icons with in their original forms, man. Right? Books are like called, I think the name of the book is called The Icons Russian and so on and so forth. The camp signs would help at this stage so you can see the images and so on and so forth. See, that's all our heritage, man. That's been stripped from us. In fact, this will be a good precept to go to. This is the book of Jeremiah, the 14th chapter and the 7th verse. All right? 17th verse, rather more. No, that's incorrect. It's in the book of Jeremiah. Alright, there we go. 16:04. Alright, so 17:04 or the more. So this is the book of Jeremiah 17:04. It says, "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage." Now, what's our heritage? Starting off first with the most important part of our heritage, which is the covenant that the Most High made with the man Abraham, which went down to Isaac, which went down to Israel, and Israel became the 12 tribes. Right, which we now know as Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. That's the principal part of the heritage, man. The covenant that the Most High made with them. And that later became, and that's how they known it as the saints. Because when you go to the book of Psalms, the 55th chapter, on the 5th verse, what did it say? It says, "I gather my saints together." Why would you have to gather this? Why did you have to gather the saints? Because the saints was going to discontinue from their heritage. All right, they was going to be amidst these different nations. All right, and they was going to follow the customs of these different nations, then making them the Gentiles. That's why you also had this other dissension amidst when Paul came on the scene. All right, because they were speaking to the Gentiles, and when the Lord came on the scene, what did He say? He said, "I have sheep, which is not of this flock." So He went out there into places like places out there within South America or North America, and they know them as Quetzalcoatl. All right. Excuse me if I've pronounced that incorrectly. So He actually went out there, right, and He taught them people. And you see within their history, they got account of a man, the same man as it was talked about in what you know now today as the so-called New Testament, right? But we also know that the scripture says how the Lord was going to come in the volume of the book, meaning to say, man, all of the scriptures, whether it's the so-called New Testament, Old Testament, that's all talking about Yahushua, all right? The deliverer of Ruth, the deliverer of the people that were cast out amongst those different nations that was going to discontinue from their heritage, which is one of the curses that befell the 12 tribes of Israel because they stopped following the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High. All right. So it says there, "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage which I gave thee." All right. So He didn't give it to the other different nations. All right. He gave it to who? To Jacob, to the 12 tribes, the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, man. All right? And in fact, when you go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter and the 6th verse, it says, "For thou art an holy people, right, unto the Most High, thy power." All right? And what does the word holy mean? It means separate. All right? Just like how you got food that's holy and the food that's unholy. All right? It's separate. It means you can, food that you call holy, that, you can eat that, right? Food that's not holy, you can't eat that. Like pork, right? Shrimps, all them kind of different stuff there. You ain't supposed to be, you ain't supposed to be dealing with that, all right? And that's how the Most High likened Israel to, man. He likened him unto a holy people. He said that's a holy people unto him. All right. When you go to the book of Zechariah, the 2nd chapter, and the 8th verse, he goes even deeper on that point. He said, because the Lord said, for that apple of mine eye. All right. And when you go to Zechariah, the 14th chapter, and the 12th verse, it says, all them different nations that touch us, that fought against Jerusalem, the Most High is going to impart a certain level of curses upon it. He's gonna mess them up, man. All right, because you read that book, that really talks about the ICBM nuclear missiles, man. All right, how people were gonna stand up on their feet and it was gonna disintegrate. Their eyes gonna disintegrate within their holes. Because why? Because they touched the Lord's people, man. All right. So when you see the whole spectrum, right, of what was happening or what has happened, right, you had it to where we discontinued from our heritage, where we was amidst of different nations. But when you go to Isaiah the 50, rather more Deuteronomy. All right, the book of Deuteronomy pretty much tells you that we was going to have no ease amidst those nations. All right, in the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter goes on to say how because we had no ease amidst those nations, because they put all kind of hell upon us, and we are the apple of the Most High's eye, that hell that we caught underneath them was going to go back on top of their heads. See, that's the beautiful part of the scriptures, because here it is, we're catching hell for the wickedness that we did, but because the Most High, you're the Most High's sword, because the scripture talks about Esau being the Most High's sword, right? Take me away from protect me from the wicked, which is thy sword, right? In the book of Psalms, all right. The Most High also said that how we were going to impart double unto her in the book of Revelation. So, hey, we're catching all this hell underneath this man for our iniquity, but the Most High has created this man for our punishment. But part of us finishing that punishment is that we're going to impart the punishments that He gave us unto him, unto Esau, unto them different nations, man. They're going to become subjects underneath us. All right, which I might touch on those scriptures a little bit later on. How we, the book of Revelations, the 2nd chapter and the 25th verse, verses alike, talking about how we're gonna rule them different nations, man. All right, that's why the scripture talks about how we're gonna become a nation of kings and priests, because we're gonna be doing what? We're gonna be having dominions, all right, and we're gonna be giving charge like a king does, but we're gonna be giving charge underneath what? Under the guidance of the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High. See, the different nations ain't gonna have, the Lord's statutes, commandments written upon their hearts. So they're gonna have to have it to where someone's gonna have to institute that. Okay, just like how you got it to where you got the lion within the wilderness. The lion follows the order of the lion, man. It's within him. It's his instinct. That's what he does. He does lion-like stuff, and that's what we're gonna be. That's what we're gonna be like. We're gonna be doing lion-like stuff. Within the realms of what you know as society, man. All right, and that's gonna be the kingdom of heaven for us, because guess what? That's when the Most High said we're gonna have perfect rest. All right. So the balance of the scripture where it talks about how we was gonna have no ease amidst those nations, the Lord said when I set up my thing, all right, underneath the Lord's statutes, commandments that I've set forth, right, underneath the Yahushua, King David, and the 12 tribes of Israel, all right. When I set that up, that's when the 12 Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans was going to have, and the term that was used was perfect rest. All right? Because when you're in this society, what do you think about? Oh, the next bill to pay. All right? How am I going to feed? He'll feed my children. All right? And the worst thing about that is these different nations, all right, it's even amidst Esau will put hell upon himself, man. Here it is, you got the devil, and the devil is in power, the wicked is in power, and he'll put the hell upon his own people, man. That goes to show you get that what the scripture says, where Satan's house be divided up again, because your house is gonna be divided to where you ain't gonna share out the wealth that you've acquired from what, from going out there into places like Iraq, Iran, all right, ransacking all of that, and the soldiers don't even get no cut off of that, man. Which is contrary really to the scriptures. Now it's Esau, it's all in wickedness. But the scripture talks about if you was gonna go into a nation, if you was gonna and you're gonna take over that nation, you're supposed to divide the spoils in a fashion that was righteous, man. So the soldiers that go out into there and they risk their life to defend their city, they was gonna take whatever spoil that was gonna be amidst them. So they go into a city that's got all kind of plus gold and garments and so on and so forth. All right, they was gonna have some of that, man. All right, and really that deals with what real wealth is, because real wealth is substance, man. Gold, silver, cattle, sheep. That's real wealth, man. See, Federal Reserve notes, right, and banknotes, that's what we know as fiat currencies. Really, that only means money. That's only money to the common people, man, to the common folk, to the unlearned. All right, that's what they know as debt, and that's where the phrase or the statement coined to where they said something to deal with kings deal with gold, noblemen with silver, and slaves deal with debt. Because when you take out and you're using those banknotes, you're indebted to the person that gives those banknotes. Hey, those banknotes are created by incepted through debt. All right, that's where you got it to where all kind of people are in 100 grand of debt, 10 grand's worth of debt, and they just live normal like it's nothing, man. That's a whole heap of debt you got to pay off at some point. But they live it out like it's normal, because we're in a debt-based society right here, man. We're in a society that cultivates emptiness, vanities, man. All right, and that's why the scripture also is going to speak about the men of the Lord, right? That's why the scripture says, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, man." Somewhere in the middle, man. Just somewhere in the middle, right there, man. Because if you're too poor, guess what? You're gonna get impatient, man. All right, you're gonna stop bugging out, man. Right, but if you're rich, guess what? You're gonna be, taking away with whatever riches that you had. That's why, and you can follow all the laws, statutes, commandments you want. You got it to where you got IUIC out there, and they got, they're the law followers. They're the because they're the Pharisees coming back. All right. But you got it to where they got all of that, but see, they can't let go of their riches. That's why they can't understand certain parts of the scriptures, man. Namely, the